Hey everybody, this is Bridget Willer with You Too Could Be a Guru. I'm a social media marketing technician, statistician. I do tactics and strategy for social media. I specialize in business to business relationship marketing. And you may have seen me from Community Connections, WP Blab, or at a WordCamp near you. And so I thought I had a little extra time, a little 30 minutes. I thought from 2 to 2:30, I'd be available if you have any questions. You can do in the live chat from YouTube, and I would answer some of your questions. So if you don't have questions, I'll make up my hypothetical questions because I've gotten a lot of questions. People always say, Bridget, can I pick your brain? And so I figure if I can help one person, I can help more than one person by doing this on a video that can be archived, of course, put on my web property, bridgetwiller.com, and also to help others who might have the same question as you. Most of the time, we do have questions that we're afraid to ask because maybe we think we don't, we're revealing something we don't know about ourselves, or we feel a little shy. But you know what? We're all lifelong learners, and we're all learning things about ourselves, about our businesses, and about technology. Hey, Cemal and Meher, happy Diwali. So thanks for joining on the chat. So Cemal has a question. His question is it wise to follow everybody that follows you on Twitter? Wow. I love this question because I have a distinct opinion about it. Gary Vaynerchuk also says, everybody's relevant. And I say the same thing. Everybody's relevant. I do follow everyone on Twitter that isn't selling followers for Twitter or Instagram, that isn't pornographic. I only block people who are belligerent. And I have a high tolerance for belligerence. So the question really is, do I have to listen to all these people? But in the 30 seconds that you've seen their profile or less, you're deciding if that person is important in your life. Most people, when I teach about social media, and ask them, how many of you rely upon referrals? And they'll all raise their hand because we all do work on referrals. Human connections mattered since the beginning of time. We do business with people that we know. We do business with people that we trust and that we like, because we like people that like us. That's human behavior. And so on social media, it's exactly the same. Here's something else to think about. If you discount that person, you don't know. The average lifespan of a person in a job is 2 years. So where was I 2 years ago? Where am I going to be from 2 years from now? How many people do I know? I'll never forget, a friend of mine said, do you know a website developer in Nova Scotia? And I said, I do. And I gave her name. And you wouldn't think that a business with a wrapping business, a person that I know from Arizona with a wrapping business, they wrap helicopters for shipping, shrink wrapping, would be relevant to a website developer that I know in Canada. But everybody that you know matters, because even if you can't do the work, if you can refer them, you still provide value. And so this follow-up question usually is, has to do with, I don't want to see everybody's posts, or they're dominating my feed. Okay. So the way you work around that is Twitter lists. And I wrote a blog post on that called Twitter lists, www.bridgetwillard.com/Twitter lists. I preach about it a lot. Twitter lists is how you filter your feed. So what I usually do is I recommend people set up 3 lists. So if you are, when I was working for a contractor, I had our clients, and I had people in Orange County, because that's where we did work. And then I had our commercial real estate brokers, because commercial real estate brokers were the people that followed us. Then once you make those lists, you can set them as columns in Hootsuite or Sprout Social or TweetDeck or whatever party situation you want to use. Now in the WordPress space, people seem to be puzzled when I say Twitter lists, but when it comes to programmers who understand databases, these are, everybody knows filters, actions, hooks, those kinds of things. So putting people on a list is essentially filtering out that primary group of people that you want to listen to. If you work with nonprofits, you're going to want those people on a list. If you work with WordPress developers, you're going to want those people on a list, right? If you have a team and your teammates tweet, you're going to want those people on a list. So to answer Cemal's question, is it wise to follow everyone that follows you on Twitter? Number one, yes. Number two, follow them and put them on the list. Number three, pay attention and spend most of your time in the lists that matter to you most. You can follow everybody back. You don't look like a jerk who's unsocial, and you never know. Who knows people? Because most of the social media managers that I know have 5 to 10 to 20 accounts. So so the next question is, and thanks for showing up, guys. I really appreciate this. This was a little bit of impromptu because I had some free time today. A little bit of a half hour, a little free time. Okay, so how often do you check the list? So I recommend checking Twitter a minimum of twice a day. And when I was an office manager doing this work, what I did was I built it into my routine. Now, if you have less than 1,000 followers or even 2,000, you should be able to accomplish this. Put it in your calendar. I would check my email, and then I would check my Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, like that. Just so whatever order works for you. So I do it once in the morning, and then I would do once after lunch. So if you can break it up and spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes in the morning and 10 or 15 minutes after lunch, then you can deal with all of your mentions. You can reply to people, and then you look at those lists. So the most important columns, if you're using Hootsuite or if you're on twitter.com, frankly, I use twitter.com a lot more lately. I like the mobile app, but for Hootsuite, I'm a Hootsuite Pro person. There's an affiliate link on bridgetwillard.com. But the reason why I do it is because I like the columns and how they're set up both on desktop and my mobile device. I like the iOS app. So what I do is I check the mentions first, and if anybody has replied to me, I reply to them, because somebody's like walked into your restaurant and you can't ignore them. It's rude. People will expect to have a response. And then also, then I would check my 3 lists, and then I would jump off. Okay. The other reason why, and you'll see this in my blog post, is that way you're being social and you're curating content by curating people. Actually, Ted Rubin quoted me when I said that in his open article on American Express. But you're curating content by curating people. Relationships matter the most, okay? So here's the cool thing about Twitter lists. And like I said, there's more detail on my blog, bridgetwillard.com/Twitter lists. You do not have to follow people that are on lists. That's another thing. So if you just want a news situation and you just want to follow news people, you can put them all on the list, and they don't have to follow you and you don't have to follow them. But Twitter, if you want to grow your account, they have these kind of ratio ceilings where you have to kind of have a 1-to-1 ratio between followers and following. They enforce it at 2,000, 5,000, 9,000, 14,000, and 19,000. The highest I've ever grown an account took me 6 years. It was Riggins CONST for Riggins Construction, and that went to 20,000. So that was my personal experience. That's how I built that account. It's how I built Give. It's how I built Gigi. It's how I built Bridget Willard. You too can be Guru on Twitter and every other account that I've done. And being a nice person on an internet where people don't reply, that's making you a little bit more special, right? And that's putting you top of mind. The more that you can interact with your customers, the better. They're telling you everything about themselves, and they're tweeting. Listening on Twitter is some of the most important time. If you have more time, read what they say. Then you know what your audience needs. You know what their pain points are. And then you know how to write content on your blog. You know how to change your products. You know how to communicate to them, because they're your demographic. They're your test group, and they're talking to you all day long on Twitter. Great. What a great question, Cemal. Thank you for asking that. So Maher says, if you put someone on a list, does that mean you're following that person? No, you don't. You don't have to follow somebody that you're on a list. You can, and I think that you should, but you don't have to. So Maher asks, how do you increase your followers on Twitter? So part of how you do that is by following everybody back. I like to have a ratio of one thing coming from my blog, 2 or 5 things coming from somebody else. That's why the real key to me, building an account, building a brand, and building the vanity metrics everybody likes, is that Twitter list. So I can go in there, see what one of my friends have posted, and then I share that. And it's called reciprocation. Reciprocation is a very powerful human motivator. And we forget that subconsciously, if I do something for you, you're going to want to do something for me. It doesn't always have to be, oh, you scratching my back, I scratch yours, right? But if I'm doing something for you, you're going to want to do something for me at some point. And hey, Angelina, thanks for joining in. So yeah, building your brand it does take work. You do have to do the time, and you do need to expect that you will have ups and downs. I unfollow people who don't follow me. I use who.unfollow.me, who.unfollowed.me, and I unfollow them. I'm sorry that they might still be on the list, but they're going to get unfollowed because I need to have that ratio. To grow my account up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, like that. So that's a common question I get. Another question I've gotten before, while I'm waiting for more questions in the live chat, and thanks for joining, guys, is about how do you engage with people. So I think one of the most underused buttons on Twitter is the reply button. A lot of people will see something like, oh yes, I love this, and they press retweet. That's great. So you're sharing somebody else's comment. That's fine. But what you didn't do is you didn't have a conversation. So relationships are built on conversations. Hi, how are you? I'm doing fine. How are you? How's the weather? Oh, it's great. Hey, did you hear about the Raiders moving to Vegas? Isn't that weird? I know. And they played the Rams. And did you hear the announcer call them the Oakland Raiders? That was funny. Ha, 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 right? So we have these meaningless conversations, but small talk is how every relationship is built. It happens in person. It happens in water coolers. It happens in email. It happens in the elevator. It happens on Twitter. So I would like to challenge you, if you feel like you're not getting the growth or the response that you want on your Twitter account, why don't you try replying to one person every day? See something that they wrote and reply to it. Just click reply and say something great. Say something, it doesn't, there's a lot of people who say, oh, you have no value to add. You know what? If you're, raise your hand if you're breathing oxygen on this planet. Okay, you have something valuable to add. You know why? Because you're valuable. Everybody is valuable because we exist and we're human beings. So it's really important to understand that you do have something of value, and making a relationship with people is a valuable thing. When somebody says, I just got a job, I just got a new job from a client, click reply and say congratulations. If somebody said, my cat died today, click reply and say, I'm so sorry for your loss. If somebody says, I'm so sick of this gym up and down, say, oh, I totally understand. Mirror their emotions. Be human. Okay, next question. Hey, Jason Tucker. Jason Tucker taught me how to be a YouTube live star. Haha, 15 minutes left. Next question is, what about cross-platform posting? Okay, so I'm going to say something a little bit controversial. And I am known for my opinions. So I don't believe in cross-posting, at least automatically. So I believe that you should post on all channels. And I have a video about it called Post with Intention. It's one of the Guru Minute. If you look at my channel, you'll see the Guru Minute videos. There's social media advice in 1 minute or less. And so if I do a blog post, I share it on Twitter. And then maybe 3 or 4 hours later, or the next day, I'll share it on my Facebook page. 2 or 3 days later, I'll share from the Facebook page to my Facebook timeline, my profile, my personal profile. I'll put it on Google Plus sometime in the middle, and maybe LinkedIn if it's appropriate. So I don't auto blast everywhere. There's times when, especially if you're posting from a site that takes more content and going to something less, like from Instagram to Twitter or from Facebook to Twitter, you can run into some really big problems. I'll never forget a pastor who cross-posted from Instagram. It says, I just saw Amy so-and-so and she blew me. So I looked at the post, she blew me away, but it didn't say she blew me away. It said she blew me and it was bad. And you can see why a pastor shouldn't be doing that. So post natively, besides the cultures on every platform is totally differently. You wouldn't go to France and order steak well done. Well, I did, and that was a mistake. They weren't happy. So you're going to offend people, right? So yeah, I can go to Paris and I can order a steak well done, but guess what? They're going to be mad. So they're not going to kick you out of the restaurant, but the guy wasn't really very nice to me anymore, right? So think about the audience, your audience, and where they are, and respect your audience. Always respect your audience. Meher says, is it better to click the RT button or do you need to rewrite the message and tweet it? I believe in the old school retweet. I use the Chrome extension called Classic Retweet. But I would just say reply, hit the reply button. Hi, Jason Tucker. He says, is it better to hire someone like you or to just ask my teenager to be my social media maven? Whoa. Okay. So I love you. Your teenager has something that she's not finished. Okay. So this is really important about psychobiology. So there's a reason why you get a discount on your auto insurance at 25 and why you can't rent a car at 25. From a physiological standpoint, you're not finished growing or developing till you're an average age of 25. And this is why 18 to 25-year-olds make a lot of mistakes. They make kind of some bad choices, and they don't have a whole lot of discretion. Discretion and wisdom come with age. They may understand how to use the technology, but there's something with youth that is a problem, and the problem is they're self-centric, not audience-centric. They don't have inhibition or discretion, which you need when you're representing somebody else's brand. And so think of your social media person as your ambassador. You're sending that person digitally to represent you, just like we sent, Shirley Temple to be an ambassador for us, or whatever, right? So that person is speaking on your behalf. They're your spokesperson. Do you want your 13-year-old nephew or your 12-year-old daughter to be speaking on your behalf? Do they have the discretion, wisdom, or education? Do they know enough about your business to do that? I'm going to say no. A college intern, I would say maybe. But you need some brand standards and some guidelines because there's a lot of things that went wrong. I don't know if you guys remember the hashtag Why I Stayed campaign about domestic abuse victims, and the pizza company that said, because pizza. Things can go really wrong really fast on Twitter and social media. Discretion is the most valuable attribute for any social media manager. So definitely, I'm going to say no on that. But you should train them. Because if you want to have a family business, do a legacy, have them sit with you, brainstorm with them. They're smart. They know you. They're your children, do that. But don't just hire them because they're young. That's a misnomer. There's a lot of people in tech that are over 30 years old or over 40. Come on. Okay. So I'm sure that was a softball. Just get me irritated. Thanks, Jason. Okay. Jason Tucker also says, should I use Buffer to queue up my tweets or have a human craft each tweet and buffer them? So for client work, that's what I did. I wrote the tweets and I put them in Buffer. So the answer is yes. If you can craft it, it's better. And just throw them in there, see the ones that perform. And here's the great thing about Twitter, you guys. Twitter, as a culture and as a platform, tolerates repetition and volume. So the ones that perform well, guess what? Recycle them. Recycle them. Save the ones that work out well. Sometimes what I do is I look at the Google Analytics. The Twitter Analytics, and I see which ones are top performing, or Buffer for better accounts has analytics, and I'll reuse it as long as it's not expired. So as long as it's not date sensitive, it's evergreen. You should definitely do that. Buffer is a great tool, and it's free for I think 2 or 3 profiles. I'm not totally sure. Love those guys at Buffer. Another question from Angelina is, any tips for starting from scratch where you have limited assets to help promote and grow your brand? Okay, this is a great question. Thank you for asking, Angelina. You do want to focus your efforts. So you should be everywhere in the way that you should be reserving your usernames. Because I'm Gidgey or YouTube can be Guru almost everywhere. But on Instagram, I was so late, I could get none of those. So I'm Bridget M. Willard. Like, I couldn't just be Bridget Willard. I'm Bridget M. Willard, right? So you need to reserve those usernames, okay? But I would focus on one platform. So you have your website, and then I would focus on whatever platform your audience is on first. So if you are working with real estate people, I would focus on Twitter. I prefer Twitter, so I'm biased. I would say Facebook is more retail and Twitter is more relationships. But LinkedIn is really good for a lot of reasons. LinkedIn, if you use it right and if you don't spam a bunch of people, that's where all the C-suite is. So if you're trying to get better paying jobs and reach the decision makers, the C-suite, they're all on LinkedIn. So where's your audience? The question isn't what's the tip from starting from scratch. The question is, where's your audience? Be there. So Instagram's great and people love it, but you always have to go link in the bio unless you advertise, and then you get to click. So that's why I like Twitter. Twitter is where people go to read. Twitter's great. Twitter's great. For 10 years, I've been using Twitter, and 8 of those for business. So from franchise development to nonprofits to construction companies to marketing companies, software, tech, Twitter works on all of those. It's where people read. And I would definitely, if you had to start somewhere, I would start there. And then the next step would be, depending upon where your audience is, definitely. I know that a lot of people like Snapchat, including Gary Vaynerchuk, who I adore, but Snapchat is inward. Snapchat is not outward. So once you do have the people, then you can engage them that way, but it doesn't push out. And so I feel like if you have limited assets, that should be one of the last things. Another question, Jason says, should I have tweets that mention an upcoming event without links and photos and just text, or should I always include a link and a photo in my event promotional tweets? That is a great question. So on Twitter, if you have an event on your website, Twitter has what they call Twitter cards. If you're using the Yoast SEO plugin and you're filling out the meta box and you're using a featured image, it's going to show that picture. So you don't need an additional pic.twitter.com image. If you're setting up your blog on WordPress correctly, it should just use that featured image. And then the tweet is a lot bigger, right? So you have the information, the link, and the tweet. If the event is on Twitter, like a tweet chat, you don't need a link unless you're promoting it. So it depends on what you do, but I might do a mix. I might do, hey, save the date, a save the date tweet. Save the date, next Thursday, we're going to do blah, 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 blah. And then you don't have to have a link. You're just saying, save the date, right? And maybe put your hashtag of your event. And then mix it up. Do a picture like, this was last week's event or last month's event. Or if it's a WordCamp, this is WordCamp from last year. It's just a picture. And then tickets are going on sale next week. And there's no link because they're not for sale yet, right? So mix it up. Mix it up. That's really great. We have about 5 minutes left. And there was another question that I had gotten. Sorry, I get really excited and I talk super fast. No, it's but think about your audience, and if you're not sure who they are, maybe your business isn't focused enough, you know? Um, so we got another question from Jamal. Should you create your own hashtags? So hashtags are also filters for search, and so search is also, we call it SEO, being findable. As Yoast says, should you create a hashtag for you or your brand? So what is the marketing goal? What is the reason why you're doing that? Okay. So if they don't know who you are, they're not going to know your hashtag. If you are starting a Twitter chat or doing a specific marketing campaign, you would want a hashtag for that marketing campaign or that Twitter campaign or that Twitter chat or that event. But just to have it so that it's on there every time, nobody's going to click on it because they don't know you and they're not going to click on it to find you. But if you're an automotive repair shop, like British 4x4 in Mission Viejo, who I used to do their Twitter, I would put automobile repair or auto repair, because that's what people are going to click on to discover you. Twitter is a great place to be discovered. People are searching. Their behavior is that they are searching on Twitter, and hashtags are keywords that people use to search. Should you use a hashtag for your brand? Maybe. Jason Tucker likes it, depends, but it does. You shouldn't use it just to use it, because you should use something that makes sense. You should use something that people are going to search. And otherwise, it's clever. I mean, you can do it if you want it to be easier to find your tweets, but why can't you find your tweets? I don't know. I don't know. It depends. It depends. But I'm going to say, just to have it, no. For a tweet chat, yes. For an event, yes. For a wedding, photos that everybody's taking on Instagram, yes. Okay. Next question. Should a Twitter account have alternate accounts for various verticals like BuzzFeed, Red, Blue, etc., for separating out the categories? I think the reason why they do that is probably for management issues. Probably the company is siloed, and because the company is siloed, those different channels are siloed. I feel like you should be able to collaborate and build a brand with one account, and we have been successful doing that. So you never know. Jamal asked, do I know that Google's algorithm for hashtags? I do not know Google's algorithms for anything, but I do know that Google indexes tweets. I have, when I named my Twitter list, I used keywords, and I started seeing that I was being recommended. You can try your own experiment. Set up a Twitter list for like Justin Bieber and put a bunch of people on that. See if you get a bunch of Justin Bieber followers. Because I think what happens is Twitter uses the way you list and then recommends those people to you. That's my suspicion based upon my experience, not about anything scientific. So another question, is it dumb? It's never dumb. Is it dumb to have an archive of your tweets on your website? I do have tweets happening on my website. I think sometimes people like to see that that's another way that they discover you. So if they found your website before they found your Twitter account, that's a good way for them to just click and do that. Also, I'm a huge believer in embedding tweets on your blog. And as we know, WordPress supports embed. So all you need is the link for that specific tweet, and you can break up your blog post and doing that. One more question, two more questions, and then I gotta bounce here. Should the list be private or public? So Maher, you can have the list either way, but I think everything on Twitter should be public. Remember, how you name them, people will know. If you have a list on Twitter that's private, like these people, I hate these people, and then you make it public, they'll be notified. People are notified when you add it to a list that's public. So use that when use that little bit of information when you make decisions. And last question from Angelina. When working on a team, how do you delegate what platforms each team member uses? That is a great question. The last team I was on, I did Twitter and LinkedIn, and my partner did the ad buying. So it could be not the platform, but the behavior. It could be that I'm able to do Twitter from my house, but somebody's at the event, so they should do Instagram. It depends on what I feel like Jason Tucker's ghost over here. It depends. What are your goals? Who do you have on your staff? This is especially important if you're a nonprofit with volunteers. What can the people that you have do? Maximize using the people that you have that fit into your company culture and believe in your views. And you know what? Thank you guys for showing up and for being in this little Ask Me Any marketing question with Bridget. And remember, you are awesome. I am awesome. Say it like Julie says, I'm awesome. And remember, you too can be a guru. Bye now.